Welcome back. We're still covering our materials from the book, Real Estate Law for Paralegals. This is Chapter 1, Introduction to Real Property Law. We are now in Part 4, and we're going to be learning about estates. So we learned what property was, and that's about the rights that we own in those items, characteristics of property. We've learned some ways to acquire title and learned a few key terms related to real property. And in our last section, we talked about the bundle of rights and looked at some specific rights in real property. So now we're going to learn about estates. So when we say estate in land or estate in real property, what we're talking about is the degree, the quantity, the nature, and extent of an interest a person has in property. And when we say interest in property, we're talking about a right that someone has in a specific property. So when we looked at the bundle of rights, we saw that you can have each individual right, a right of disposition, a right of possession, a right of use and enjoyment. Well, each one of those rights is an interest, and multiple people can have share those rights, and some can be held exclusively by one person and not the others. So when we talk about an interest, we're talking about some right that someone may have in a piece of property. And these estates that we're going to learn about have degrees of the rights, varying degrees of the rights you have in land. So our first estate that we're going to learn about is called fee simple absolute. So fee simple absolute is the greatest type of estate you can have. It's unlimited estate to a person and their heirs assigns forever without condition. With fee simple absolute, you get the whole bundle of rights. You get 100% of everything. You can't get any better than fee simple absolute. But there are things that are less than fee simple absolute, but still pretty close, like your book talks about. So the first one is called fee simple determinable. And fee simple determinable is an ownership interest that has a provision for automatic termination when a stated event occurs. So imagine, if you will, we have Old Man Jones in his cottage, and we have his deadbeat son. He really wants his deadbeat son to turn his life around, so he's going to try to inspire him to do so and help him out. So he wants to give him this cottage and say, you know, this can really turn your life around. I want you to, you know, stop being a deadbeat. So he's going to give him this house. So to Ricky Rotten. And remember, we learned grantor grantee, right? Anytime someone's giving or transferring ownership in the property, they're the grantor. Anytime someone receives the property, they're the grantee. So it says to Ricky Rotten. Right, so he's given him the property so long as you are not arrested for drugs. So he's given the property to Ricky Rotten so long as he's not arrested for drugs. So if Ricky can just say no to the smack, well, then he gets to own the cottage and live out the remainder of his days as a drug-free, happy man. But if he can't kick the habit and he gets arrested for drugs, his ownership in the cottage terminates automatically and is taken from him. So you're probably saying to yourself, well, if old man Jones gave his son the property and then he gets it taken away because he got arrested, well, where does the property go? Well, a couple things could happen. So old man Jones might say to Ricky Rotten, so long as you're not arrested for drugs, then to little Timmy. And so if his son Ricky's arrested for drugs, Ricky's ownership interest is terminated and the property will go to little Timmy. Or maybe it was his brother Bob, or maybe to his church. He can let the property go anywhere he wants to, right? Because remember, that's your right of disposition. So he wants to give it to Ricky so long as Ricky's not arrested for drugs, and if he is, then he wants it to go somewhere else. That's your right of disposition. But what if he doesn't say that he wants it to go anywhere else, right? He just says to Ricky, so long as you're not arrested for drugs. Well, if Ricky's arrested for drugs, his ownership terminates and the property will go back to Old Man Jones. And if Old Man Jones is dead already, then the property will go back to Old Man Jones' estate and either go to where he would have designated it in his will, or if he didn't have a will, then pursuant to the state's intestacy laws. So that was a fee simple determinable, where you put a event, tie ownership to an event that if it happens can automatically terminate ownership. So the next one is a fee simple condition subsequent. So it's sort of the same, but a little bit different in that it has provision for optional termination, not automatic termination. So imagine we have the same situation. Old man Jones wants his deadbeat son, Ricky Rotten, to turn his life around, thinks giving him a house is going to help him out. Remember, Old Man Jones is a grantor. He's transferring ownership. Ricky Rotten is the grantee. He's receiving ownership. So he tells him to Ricky Rotten. But if you are arrested for drugs, then I have the right to re-enter the property and take it from you. So, of course, if he stays, where he doesn't get arrested for drugs, he gets to keep the property and live out his days. Happy man, owner of the cottage. But if he gets arrested, whereas in the fee simple determinable, the ownership interest terminated automatically, that's not the case here. It's optional. So maybe old man Jones comes in and takes the property back. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe Ricky says, oh, I'm so sorry, Dad. I promise it'll never happen again. Cross my heart. Swear to die. Stick a needle in my eye. Please don't take the house from me. Okay, son. Give you a second chance, third chance, fourth chance, however many chances it is this time, and doesn't take the property back, doesn't terminate the ownership interest. But then maybe it happens again and he decides to do it, right? So he gets arrested for the 17th time and old man Jones says, all right, terminating your ownership interest. Well, what happens if it happens after old man Jones is dead, the arrest? Well, the right that he had to re-enter would pass to whoever got that right, either through will or through the estate. So then if the property were to pass to somebody else would have the right to re-enter and kick Ricky Rotten out of the house and take the ownership of it. All right, so our next estate is called a life estate. And this is the ownership interest in property that is designated by a period of time on the life of a person. So let's say we've got Grandpa Joe, and he's got a special needs grandson that he wants to take care of. So he wants to set him up with this house for his life. So we still got grantor, grantee. All right, so Grandpa Joe is going to give it to little Timmy for life. That means little Timmy's going to get it for his entire life. He's going to be the owner. Well, we call that the measuring life, right? Because that's the estate is measured by the life of little Timmy. And when little Timmy dies, ownership of the property goes elsewhere. But where does it go? Well, if you say to little Timmy for life, then to my church. Well, when little Timmy dies, the property would then go to the church. This is called the remainder interest, right? So little Timmy gets it for life, then it's going to go to the church. So the church has the remainder interest, right? They have a future interest in the property that is going to happen when little Timmy dies, because little Timmy's going to die, because we all die. Little Timmy's certainly going to die. And when he does, the church gets the cottage. That's called the remainder interest. So little Timmy getting it for life is the life estate. Church getting it is the remainder interest. But what if there is no remainder interest? What if he just says to little Timmy for life, but doesn't say then to who gets it when little Timmy dies? Well, then it would go back to the grantor, right? It goes back to Grandpa Joe. This is called reversion, right? It reverts back to the grantor who gave the life estate. And if he's dead when little Timmy dies, then again, it's going to go back to his estate and go pass via will or intestate. Whoever's going to get the property would get it through either the will, or if there's no will, through state statute. So the property would come back to the estate, revert back to the estate, and then pass according to the will or the intestacy statute. But life estate doesn't always have to be for the life of the grantee. So this says to little Timmy for life. We could just say to little Timmy for the life of little Tammy. Then little Tammy becomes the measuring life, and little Timmy would own the property so long as little Tammy was alive. When we have this set up where the life estate is for the life of a third party, not the grantee, this one's called a life estate per autre vie, meaning the life estate for the life of another. All right, so the things to take away are the estates and land, fee simple absolute, fee simple determinable, fee simple condition subsequent, and life estate. And again, no grantor and grantee. Those are very important. You need to know them throughout this course and your career as a paralegal. And then the other terms, measuring life, reversion, remainder interest. This concludes our materials on Chapter 1.